More now on our top story. Searchers say they've pulled human remains from the ocean, where a passenger plane is believed to have crashed with 62 people on board. That's just off the Indonesian coast. Now, Geoffrey Thomas is the editor-in-chief of airlineratings.com. He says it's clear the flight suffered a catastrophic event.
There was no distress call from the pilots, no call to ATC, and the plane literally fell out of the sky. There are reports of 2 major explosions. There was thunderstorm activity in the area, and all we have at the moment are fragments of debris picked up by local fishermen.
And what sort of safety record does the airline have?
Actually, it has quite a good safety record. It has had a number of incidents over the last 10 years, mostly overruns on landing, which are kind of common in Indonesia because quite typically the runways are a little too short, often not grooved, which is important, particularly considering the number of thunderstorms they have. So from a point of view of safety, quite a good track record for this particular airline.
What about the aviation industry in Indonesia more generally? What could you tell us about that?
Well, yes, that's a wider safety issue. The Indonesian oversight of its airlines has come in for criticism over the last 10 or 15 years, to the point where the EU banned most Indonesian airlines from flying to Europe, including this particular carrier. One by one, those airlines have that ban has been lifted, particularly as the Indonesian authorities have improved their oversight of the airlines. But look, because of the aviation industry in Indonesia, the runways being short, lack of navigation aids in many cases, very mountainous, bad weather, the safety record is not particularly good. Not to be compared, for instance, with Australia. So tragically, accidents like this do occur.
Now, it is a Boeing plane that's gone down, but it's not the same make as the Boeing 737 MAX 8, which was involved in crashes in recent years. What can we make of that, the plane itself, the aircraft?
Yeah, this particular model is what we call in the industry the classics. The classic. The first version of the 737 we now refer to as the Jurassic. That was in the 1960s. This particular upgrade came about 10 or so years later, into the early 80s, and we call that the Classic. This is what this aeroplane was, the 737-500. The 737 we see in Australia flying extensively with Qantas and Virgin Australia is the new generation 737, which was designed in the late 1990s and has a superb safety record. The MAX was the final version that you referred to. But getting back to the Classic still has got a very good safety record. This aircraft was 26.8 years old. While that could be a factor in this, the reality is we have aircraft in the industry flying for 30, 40 and 50 years. It's how they're maintained, and that's a very big factor, a very important factor in air safety around the world.
Still a lot of questions to be answered about this crash. What will happen in the coming days and weeks? What will the search and recovery effort involve? And when will we and the family of those on board have some answers?
Look, yes, we'd like to think that we could get answers very quickly, although the aeroplane is in about 14 metres of water. 2 factors here. One, the current, how strong the currents are, how clear the water is, and if there's strong currents, then the water is going to be very muddy, so it'll be very difficult to find. It may take several weeks to recover the main body of wreckage, and then the black boxes. Then they have to be read to either possibly in Australia or in the United States. And then we have to search for answers if the black boxes don't give us some clear definition of what happened. And that could come from the wreckage, possibly explosive residue, fire, those sorts of telltale signs. So it may well be that we're looking at months, if not a year, before we get a final answer that will give closure to the relatives left behind.